Kerri-Anne Kennerley, why are you here? Why did you decide to do this show?
You'll have to ask my age.
I know. I think when you turned up, you're like, I didn't want to be here, but here I am.
Look, I know we were talking about when we met last time, which was years and years ago, in a pub.
We did in a pub.
Now, it's just these days I amuse myself with a lot of other things that just don't have much to do with media.
I know. Do you still enjoy it, though, the media part of it? Like doing these types of things?
I've never done a podcast before.
Oh, no. I'm puffing a chair.
I've never, ever done a podcast. I've never seen the need to. Not sure why people do. I understand why people do, because they have a purpose. Normally, if I do publicity, and which has always been exactly the same reason, you do publicity, which includes podcasts or shoots, simply to cross-promote whatever you want to do, because that's the business.
Right.
And part of the business is cross-promotion. I'm not unfamiliar with that concept.
Right.
And luckily, I've been able to do a lot of it and use it to the advantage. But it's all about the business. And at the moment, I'm cruising through a few things, and I just don't see the need to do it unless you've got something to promote. Otherwise, it's a bit self-serving. I don't see the need to talk about, unless you've got something to talk about.
Right, and that's maybe what I grew up in this business for 25 years now, and I agree with you. But I do think that there's something really interesting about behind the picture, like who is Kerri-Anne Kennerley? What makes her tick? Why does
Which
she
is exactly why I don't really do them, because I've always talked about whatever the product is or the purpose is or the how-to is, and I'm really happy to talk about, the career, the skill set attached to interviews, the basis of how you get people to do this or you achieve that in interviews. And, luckily, there is a bit of a method in the madness, because I've always done live TV. So you really had to hit your mark pretty quickly on live TV. And live TV 5 days a week for 2 hours a day is a hungry beast.
Yeah. And did you feel that because you have to show up and you have to put on a certain front, that no matter what's happening in your private life and your personal life, you can't bring that on set? Like, how many times have you felt like you maybe didn't want to do that show that day, but you had to come and be the complete professional and put on that mask?
Duh.
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't heard that word "duh" in so long.
What, Homer Simpson?
Yeah, I haven't heard that word in so long.
Well, of course, nobody goes to work every single day of their life absolutely desperate and passionate about what they're going to do.
Right.
That's just not human. But that's the difference between being a professional or an amateur. You've got to bring it to the table anyway. If you're a pro, you do it anyway. It doesn't matter how you feel, and that's the skill set of a professional. You do it, and do it as well as you possibly can. Amateurs can't cut it.
And is that why you've lasted for 50 years now?
No, they just kept paying me.
Did they pay you well?
Eventually.
Not in the beginning. It's hard. It's hard.
It's always hard. Everybody's got to start somewhere. No, and you shouldn't expect to be paid very well. And a lot of people whinge about, I'm starting, but the money's really terrible, and I really can't earn a living. And my attitude is, keep doing it, and actually keep doing it for nothing until you get better, and somebody will then pay you to do it because you are actually good. A lot of people just walk in, and it doesn't matter whether it's showbiz, media, or whatever. People expect to walk into a job, be paid terribly well to learn. I come from an era where you just had to do it and keep doing it until you got better, until somebody was prepared to pay you well.
And what was it like being in an industry that was obviously run by a lot of successful men, and then you're such a successful woman? Was it difficult in that? I mean, it's very different in this day and age. I feel that, if there's an issue, women can speak up more than they could back then. Did you feel like it was difficult?
Of course it was. Yeah, there's no question. And also, I wasn't always great at what I did, or even very good at what I did. So I learned along the way. There were lots of hurdles. And yes, it was a very, and has always been a very male-dominated industry. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. You look at something and you go, okay, how am I getting from A to B? All you need to do is go forward every single day. Do whatever you got to do. And don't take no for an answer. Get better at everything you do. And yeah, there's always going to be hurdles. These days, there are laws, luckily. There's laws against bullying. There's laws against discrimination and discriminatory behaviour. There's laws against all these things. But you've got to remember, going way back, we didn't have what they used to call a we had a payroll department, which then became, I think, human resources. Then it became everybody needs to feel good department. We didn't have anybody or women of my age and stage, whether they were researchers, producers, cameras, we didn't have anybody to go to. We had to sort our own problems out on the day, draw the line in the sand, make it good, and just get on with it. Luckily, young women don't actually have to do that. So therefore, they are somewhat protected now because there are laws, and people, not only young women, but young men are protected. Then we had to do it ourselves. And to be quite frankly, we did it quite well. Most of them did it quite well. Those who didn't, unfortunately, decided it was the too hard basket and found something else to do. But there's a lot of us who just did it, and that's the way it was. You drew the line in the sand, then everybody got back to work.
And what was it about being in front of the camera and doing what you did that you loved so much? Like, where did that stem from? Your child, like when you were a child, did you remember a moment where you're like, this, like for me as an actor, I just remember I was born an actor. All I wanted to do was to entertain people from when I was very young. I know that you sing. I know that that's something that you love too. So then why didn't you go down the path of continuing music and going down the other path? I know you have done music in bits and pieces, but why did you choose the career and then continue with it? Was it just a passion of yours?
I did a lot of singing around the world, and I loved it. And that is still so soulful to me. As your life and career works out, in Australia especially, there's more money in TV. Industry, you can make a much better living. Otherwise, you, as a singer, you either get a record company, become famous, and then that lasts X number of years, then you've actually got to go on and find something else to do, because otherwise you spend the next 30 or 40 years doing leagues and RSL clubs, which is a terrific living, and people enjoy it. But if you want longevity, you find and also I then started to enjoy it. But television, I was doing a TV show when I was 13. So I always loved the camera. I remember coming home from school, watching Uncle Jim Iliff on Brisbane's Channel 9ers, going, Mum, I think, I'd like to do that. So I just kept calling the network. I think it's called stalking now. And I eventually got up there for an audition to do God knows what. And I ended up doing television shows with them for about the following 5 or 6 years. So I don't know where it comes from. I do think you're either born a performer and you're willing to keep taking those risks. A lot of people are born performers. They don't always have the resilience to follow through. And resilience in life doesn't matter whether you're performing or anything else, running a family, running a business. If you don't have resilience, it makes things a lot tougher. But especially in media and that, I think you've got to have resilience. And I had that. And I also had unashamed ambition.
I love ambition. I feel like women, it's hard. I've always been very ambitious, but I feel like it's almost a dirty word for women to say that they like, and I like to make money. And the first time I said that about 5 years ago on a podcast, someone was like, you can't say that. And I'm like, men say it all the time. They say they like to make money. So is obviously it's something that women I feel like need to be able to say. Ambition is so sexy. It's so wonderful. It's such a driving force.
Ambition keeps you going. If you don't have ambition, you become tired, stale. Ambition is only lucrative curiosity.
Mm, I like that. And do you think that your strength and resilience has been tested recently? There's been obviously, you're in a different time in your life. And for me, as I get older, I just turned 40 years old and I have kids and they're older now. And, for me, I look at myself and I feel more invisible than I did 20 years ago, especially my job offers.
Oh,
And
trust me, it's
especially,
only going to get worse.
thank you. That's what I'm saying. It gets worse. So then,
But no, it
how do
doesn't get
you?
worse. It just gets different. And
But it's
every single decade of your life, you change. Your life changes. You physically change your body and your brain, your emotions, what you need and want in life changes. So every single decade of your life changes. Whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, it changes. Just and you the thing you can't change is that change.
I know. It's
So
acceptance of that.
it's going to happen. So you can either resist it and one day make it harder than it needs to be, work your way around it, figure out what you want, figure out the end game of what that decade is going to hold. Doesn't mean you can't get what you want. It varies. And all you got to do, just like life, embrace it, get on it, go through it.
But it's hard when, like, for
Of course,
me,
it's hard.
yeah, when you
Get
think of
over
yourself,
yourself.
but when you think of yourself as like you got the opportunities and then you now walk through your life, and I know it's easy to say just be resilient, but there's a loss that goes within that, and there's a grief that goes within losing each
bullshit.
decade. But there is, and I
Oh,
think,
God.
and
the poor little
but
me.
it's not.
Poor
It's
little
more.
me, or
It's
the
not
poor
that.
little me's going, oh, it's so hard. I'm 40 now and I've done all these wonderful things. Gee, it's not like what you've lost. It's what you're about to gain and go through. You won't have a choice. Stop regressing those thoughts.
And
those thoughts are regressive.
Right.
Get off that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And look, I'm probably sounding a bit mean girls here.
It's okay.
But no, it's good for you.
So listen, you can't say anything ruder than I've said to myself, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah. But it's like you wake up every day. I can either walk through this day going, oh, I wish, and walking through it like treacle or concrete, or go, what the? And go, yeah, okay, accept it, move on.
Right.
You have to. Otherwise, you make your emotional attitude a lot more difficult than it needs to be. It's going to be, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not going to be so.
But then how do we create more opportunities for women as they age, when aging in this business is something
Aging in this business today is 1,000 times, 1,000% better than it's ever been. So, yes, it still exists because we are a youth-oriented society, always have been, especially Australia. Compared to America, we are baby youth-oriented. America at least has a lot more tolerance for older women because you've got a bigger population, you've got more slots you can fit in with your demographic who want to hear and listen, want to need to know what you are saying and doing and looking and feeling and the experience that you've had, because they're probably going through some boring part of their life and need some inspiration. Here, it's completely youth oriented, and also much smaller population. Stop throwing away great things you can do by regressive thought.
But then recently you said you felt like you lost your mojo. So then what does that mean to you? What is that sentence, I feel like I've lost my mojo,
When did I say that?
I think I saw it on the project.
On the project?
I think so. You lost your mojo,
I
and then
haven't
you
done
went
the project I
The
don't think
project.
the television show,
Yes.
the Channel
Interview
10
show.
one,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever done that show.
I watched the interview yesterday.
Really?
I promise you.
What was I? Oh, I can't
promise
even
you.
remember.
After I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So why choose that? Why then
I
choose
lost my
that?
mojo when I did that.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Why choose that opportunity then? Because
it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Just
they came to me and I was like, I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I short version is I avoided it for 10 or 11 years. One of the executives came to me and promised me this, 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 and this. I've gone, not doing anything else at the moment. You got to remember, I've abseiled from a whole bunch of choppers. I did trapeze for a television show. I have driven leopard tanks, driven 3 celebrity Grand Prix. I've done silly, silly things. That one came along. I had nothing else to do at the time. I got promised a bunch of stuff and they lied. And so instead of being in there the 3 weeks I committed to, I got out in 3 days because they lied.
What did they promise?
I don't want to go into it because it's now history. But and I'm even dumbfounded that I said to myself after I've gone, oh my God, I avoided exactly what happened for 10 years. And I fell into the trap I could have told somebody else not to fall into. And I was dumb enough to fall into it. So it just does go to prove, doesn't matter how smart you think you are, you can trip.
Yeah. So you would not do that show if you knew now what you knew then?
If I had thought about it for one more nanosecond and the things that were said to me were not said to me, I wouldn't have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And listen, I've grown up with you on TV, so I respect
But it was dumb. I'll stick my hand up right now.
Was that the dumbest thing you've ever done?
It was funny.
Out of all the things.
And of all the things I've done, that
does.
comes out as absolutely number one dumb.
Okay.
And as backed up by several of my friends, especially straight after then going, you didn't tell us. We would have locked you in a room if you had said you were going. But I don't know. Sometimes I've always thought I was pretty bulletproof and then you get wounded and move on. But no, dumb. Yeah. Dumb and lies. That's what I put it down to.
I've, again, respected you my whole career. I've known of you my whole career and I've adored you my whole career. And to see someone else, obviously we don't know each other personally, but I've always had such great respect. And to see someone disrespect you on national TV actually made me furious. And I know you said that you've never been spoken to before, ever like that. It actually makes me think of, I'm probably older than her, but generations of like, the lack of respect and the filters that they don't have anymore is actually quite shocking. I have 2 young girls. And for me, it's yes, you can speak your mind, but there has to be some kind of level of respect of people. And I was actually really shocked. Were you completely, was your breath taken away or were you just like, fuck you?
I just sat there and looked at her. Did I respond?
Yeah.
I didn't respond.
Yeah.
That had no real absolute impact on me. It just made me realize that I wanted out. And I got out. I then demanded my passport and my phone and they wouldn't give them to me. But anyway, it wasn't about her.
How did you get home?
It wasn't about her. It was about, she was, to be quite frank, yeah, I was a bit shocked by what she said, but, so be it. I'm a big girl. It wasn't about her. It was about everything else. So she was, just sort of a sad, furious person who found herself in a position and I was the only one she could lash out at. So, I wasn't... yeah, I mean, shocking language. It does amaze me people can do that. But no, it wasn't about that.
How did you get home if you can't get your passport and your phone?
Oh, no, they make you they make you go and work for it because you have signed contracts.
So what happens? How do you?
Well, I'm not going to get into it.
Well, I need to know if I go on the next season, Kerri-Anne.
Never do it.
They were like this time. They were like, "Do you want to do it?"
Because
and I was like,
No, because I didn't find them very honourable people.
But did you
at
also
the end of the day? But also, I'm not a silly person. I have dealt with executives for 50 years. Let's go back to dumbest thing I did.
Yes, the dumbest thing in the jungle.
Believing an executive.
Yeah.
But and then, a couple of issues come up. Look, I don't blame anybody else, but, there's only one way to get out. You have to do what you're told to get out. And I did. Boy, it wasn't easy. But anyway, it's history.
Did they still fly first class?
You chalk it up to experience. Experience I really never want to go down to.
Yeah.
Gee, and at least I lost 2 or 3 Ks.
Did you really?
It's the only sum total good thing in there. Don't think I want to go through it again, but there are easier ways to do it.
Yeah. Did you fly business class? First class?
Absolutely. Way too long with the tooth not to do business anymore.
What airline? Was it South African Airways?
No. I can't remember.
I'm from South Africa. I was born there.
I know. Johannesburg.
Yeah. Johannesburg. It's not the safest country.
No. I got to say, I've probably flown through Johannesburg probably at least 8 or 10 times. I've done about 4, 5 stories for 3 or 4 of them were for the Sunday on Channel 7 program. Magnificent stories on saving the rhinos. It was just magnificent. And Johannesburg, I do know these days how dangerous it is.
Oh, that's why we got out.
But it's so sad. You look at the country, what a beautiful country, magnificent. So many of the people. It's beautiful.
There's a smell of Africa.
It's just magnificent. But now the crime, there's in South Africa, nobody's paying taxes. You go in there, the grid, 30 years of decay of the electricity system has just caused havoc in that country. Nobody pays taxes. There's no health benefits. It's just sad to see. And to be quite frank, the very fact that I don't see an end point or a success at the end of even a tough rainbow. There's nothing.
I mean, most of my family, other than my parents, which are here in South Africa, and we don't know of one of our family member who hasn't been held up by a gun or hasn't been kidnapped in their own house or hasn't had a burglary. When you go to the traffic light, you don't stop. You just slow down because most of the hijackings will happen if the car is stopped. So
it is sad for a country in the world that is so magnificent, and it's all of Africa. It's not just South Africa. It's all of Africa. Everything is sort of, every country seems to be tainted with this sadness of corruption and crime. Not that, that doesn't happen in every other part of the world, but it's just magnified there.
Did you feel safe ever when you were there, or were the guards with you?
I'm very, very lucky. The times that I went, we were out, chasing rhino, doing wonderful stories with people trying to protect various species. So no, I knock on wood. I did have to spend 24 hours literally holed up in a hotel room in Johannesburg to fly out because I wouldn't even go to the shopping mall, and that's saying something. If I can't go shopping, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Do you like shopping? Do you like to spend?
Yeah.
What's the most expensive thing you've ever bought? And be honest. Was it a Lamborghini?
A Balmain jacket with big shoulder pads.
That's not too bad.
Oh, $6,000.
That's okay. This is justifiable.
I don't know where you grow up, but man,
in the US, it's half price. It's like 60%.
But the trouble is, we're not. No, in the US, for us, with the Aussie dollar, it's twice that. No.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I found that really expensive, but I loved it.
Yeah. What car do you drive?
It's I drive a sort of. It's a little Lexus, a little hatchback type, a hybrid.
Do you know that streets are very tight in Australia?
Mm.
Like I've
Well, because
hit on either
the
side.
streets of Sydney
Yeah.
were built in the 1850s,
Oh my
the
God.
18th century. That's why they're
Yeah.
so tight. They weren't built for bike lanes added to this, added to that.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't move 2 blocks of houses and make a freeway. So people expect stuff about traffic, and then they insist on making all these other things, and they still want to let people drive there, except you know, you lose half the parking and they don't make
and it's a
public
two-way
transport.
street, which is literally for half of a car. I honestly, most of the time I'm praying that I don't sideswipe all three.
Oh, it's easy. Just breathe in.
It's just
works for me.
So you said you lost a couple pounds in the you look amazing, but and you're gonna probably say boohoo and tell me to shut up, which is fine. It's my kids are way harder on me than you are. But do you feel still the body image? So in the 80s, in the 90s, I mean,
no, for me.
Is it different now? Is it different? Like, do we have to all look skinny, and do we have to all have?
I've never really been that.
Have you always been slim?
One to look at other people's, you know, who and what they are and how they look. It's actually about how I feel, what I want to achieve, how I want to feel, how I want to look. Not even, you know, I didn't ask anybody else's opinion. I'd go, that's what I need. That's what I want. And there's no question. You've got to feel good. At the end of the day, you've got to feel good. And the only way you feel good is, you know, eating relatively well, bit of exercise. And, you know, if you do fall off the exercise bandwagon, which, you know, you do 100 times in your life, and I don't mean I've never been a gym junkie, but boy, when you are fitter, you feel better. You have more energy. You've got better, you know, sleep patterns. You've got better life patterns. You've got better stuff that you can absorb and enjoy. And I do feel sad. It would appear that a lot of people for a very long time have always tried other people's images for their benchmark. I didn't.
You never said you.
Not really. No.
You're just like, I want to look like I did 5 years ago. That's my benchmark.
No, I just want to do what I want to do today.
Did you ever worry about body size on air? And did anyone ever mention anything? Was there ever anything toxic?
Oh, they wouldn't have dared.
Yeah, but did they ever? Did you feel like everyone had to look a certain way on camera?
So I think
like
you've got to be your own judge. You know, when you're working, you go back and do your own observations, and that means what you've said, how you've said it, what could you have been done better, and that's one of the issues with live television. You know, there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to run, because you have to, in 3 or 6 or 8 minutes, achieve what you need to achieve and do it the first time. You don't get a second take. You can't cut out the boring bits. And let's face it, it's never always going to go to plan. So you've got to figure out how to run with a bad plan, how to capitalize when you make mistakes, and that's just called normal. And sometimes just though the silly things or dumb things that happen can turn into some of the best things if you know how to run with it. Because also I think people understand and respect not everything goes to plan.
Right.
You know, you get a lot of everything these days is so finessed and so perfect.
It's not the shit show that life is.
Life is not perfect. People like to see a few glitches because it makes them feel connected.
Do you ever remember an interview that just went like a complete shit show? Was there anything that stood out? Like, I will remember that complete abomination of the person. They were just hard to deal with. Was there ever one of those?
There's been, a few people who aren't great, but I did probably between 5 and 10 interviews a day, 5 days a week for 35 years. So I don't actually remember the bad ones. I mean, there's Harrison Ford, I had to do a pre-record with him, and you only get given 8 minutes. But he'd rather have root canal therapy than do an interview.
Is that like you?
Oh,
Is
golly.
that like you?
Oh, no, at least I turn up.
You did turn up.
Yeah.
My beautiful manager was like, she might not come. And I was like, she will. I've thought good thoughts.
No, it's not that I don't want to do it. As I said before, it's purpose-driven for me.
Yeah.
And me talking about myself, I don't enjoy it. I don't find myself that fascinating.
I find you fascinating.
I find it, I'd rather talk to other people about, mindset of a champion or the success that people have done. And that's the joy I got out of my career, because I love being able to dig a bit deeper than the surface. And that was one of the joys, especially of Midday, because of the type of show it was. It wasn't about the guests we would have or the obviousness of why they were there and what they would flog. And all of them were there to flog something, which is fine. But what you could do is find that next level of that person and how to get that out of them.
Right.
And there's techniques to doing that. Find some, and that's why with you, it's Peter Costello doing the Macarena, Jeffrey Archer playing pool, John Howard playing cricket. Getting people to do something that is out of their own comfort zone, and then they actually give you more of who they are rather than the preparedness of a given interview, which is, to be quite frank, most people who are professionals at what they do, they find being interviewed, 101 times about the same thing, just as boring as everybody else does. So you've got to approach it in a different way. Okay, Priscilla Presley. God, did we get a 10-page writer? No, you can't talk about Elvis. You can't talk about Lisa Marie. You can't talk about this. And I looked around and said, hang on, Priscilla Presley is bringing out a perfume called Priscilla Presley.
Right.
Not Priscilla Beaulieu, which was her maiden name. She's calling it Priscilla Presley.
Right.
So she's here to flog a perfume called Priscilla Presley. But don't talk about Elvis. Don't talk about Lisa Marie. But if you agree to that interview, you obey the rules. Be honourable. Absolutely. Obey the rules. Otherwise, say no.
They'll never come back.
Yeah. They won't come back. I couldn't. It's dishonourable if that. But if you want to go round corners, example, talking to Priscilla, because there's nothing, a whole bunch that she's done in her career that's, to be quite frank, that noteworthy.
Gosh.
So how I approached her, she had a child at 40-something, virtually within a year of Lisa Marie having her first baby. Simple question, which was in the rules. How is it now being the mother of your daughter and you sharing the same baby experience as a grandmother and a mother and your daughter having a baby the same age as yours?
And how did she respond?
She was wide-eyed and loved it. She went on to discuss her relationship and baby news that they shared, and baby clothes and attitudes and feeding. And she opened the door to talk, and she talked about Lisa Marie so easily because I struck a chord that related to her, and nobody else had asked her how she and her daughter felt about virtually sharing babydom together. And it was a whole new experience for her because it had been such a long time in between babies for Priscilla. And it was a first for her daughter, Lisa Marie. She then went on to discuss Elvis because she and Elvis discussed how they wanted to raise Lisa Marie. And that was a whole revelation for everybody. So there's ways of getting stuff out of people and still being honourable, and it's also new for them.
Yeah. And when you're doing these interviews, is some of it because, I mean, is the other ratings really important? Like, are the
Look,
people,
you
is
do
that something that you watch
Oh,
or
you
think
have to.
about?
You know, in television, you lived and died by the ratings, end of
Do they
story. But you
now
can't. Oh, sugar, yeah,
still?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, well, different ratings. It's different. The benchmark is different these days. In those days, you had surveys. It used to be paper surveys. Then it became computerized. But yes, success is success. The more people want to watch your program, the more advertising you get. At the end of the day, you're there. You're getting paid because other people are paying your company to advertise.
Right.
Otherwise, you're on the ABC and you get it as a taxpayer, and I'm paying
Right.
and I'm not getting value.
You need
Just for
that
the
Balmain
record.
jacket.
Yeah, well, look at the ABC and what they do and how much they waste and spend. Does
Yeah.
my head in. But in commercial television, you want to be in commercial television, make people watch your show. They get advertising, you maintain a job, and it gives you a lot of satisfaction of being successful. So, but the only thing I was ever responsible for was the several minutes between a commercial break. That's how I felt my responsibility. That's where it lay. So whatever I could do to make that as interesting as possible so that people didn't turn off in the commercial break. Sum total. How did I do that? Every day was a different day. Every interview was a different interview. You can't have the same people dragging themselves up to flog the same boring thing. You've got to figure out how to make them and to get people, your guests, to think differently as opposed to the other 50 interviews they've just done. Jeffrey Archer, the book, the author, comes along. Oh my God, I think I'd spoken to him 3 or 4 times before that. The next day I'm going, this is going to be so same old, same old. And this is way before he went to jail. But I noticed the very last, at the bottom of the pile of the research the night before, was he was the, I think, the chairman of the Billiards Association of England. Snooker, billiards. I've gone that night, get me a billiard table. And they're going, it's too late. I've gone, no, it's not. Get me a billiard table by 12 o'clock. And getting him he thought it was hysterical, and he loved billiards and snooker. He thought, and you give him a pool cue and a few. All he wanted to do is play. And of course, the conversation is different when people are not guarded about what they're about to say.
Right.
Conversation just goes off on other tangents.
Right.
And you get a completely different interview. Looks different, feels different, is different. People answer different questions depending on how you phrase it. Going back when, John Howard he was Prime Minister about to turn 64. Where will you still need me?
Yes.
Will you still fear me? And all Canberra's go, oh, well, John Howard is going to retire at 64. And of course, and he'll hand the reins to Peter Costello. I've gone, oh, really? Even Joe Hockey, who I had played, I said, I don't think he's going to retire. He said, Kerri-Anne, I'm in cabinet. He's going to retire at 64, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This is really the smartest people politically in Canberra was going to retire. So he's had him on the show. Can't remember why particularly he was on, but I did. So I've said, oh, Mr. Howard, you recently come back from America where you actually went to Camp David with the President Bush. Come on, did you steal the soap and the towel? How big was your suitcase and how was that? And he said, oh, biggest barbecue. Those Americans think they know how to do barbecues, and it was a great experience. And I'd already known that George Bush was coming to Australia in the following October for whatever the reason. And so as Mr. Howard explained, the whole Camp David experience. And I said, oh, wow. So, Mr. Bush is coming out in October. I said, so what plans have you got to reciprocate that sort of hospitality? And he looks at me. He said, we have some great ideas. And I said, so you will still be in the lodge in October? He just looked at me and he's gone, good one.
Because you knew.
That's all he said.
Yeah.
He just knew he'd been caught. And do you know, not a single smarty in Canberra figured that out. And he never retired.
He never retired.
And no political animal out of Canberra caught it.
Wow. Oh, I love that story.
So he told me nobody ever picked it up.
Except you.
Well, we were only a sort of a blue rinse blonde set in the middle of the day, so who would have been watching? Only Australia.
But I mean, you are one of the greats. Do you know that?
No,
Do you feel that?
Oh God, no.
But why?
No. Well, you
are at least my whole life.
Having spoken to people like Michael Parkinson, David Frost.
But you,
they're the people, and I'm lucky enough to have spent a lot of time with Michael Parkinson on camera and off camera, and I'm so sad to have lost him in the last couple of years. But he was a seriously generous person to sit next to. And I did a show with him for Good Morning Australia many years ago when he and David Frost bought TV-AM. Used to be able to buy 6 till AM till 9 AM because the British, while we had Good Morning Australia, the British didn't have breakfast TV. They had no. So they bought it and he started it. And he came over and he was working for Channel 10 at the time. He came to Australia because he had his own TV show. But he also sat in with me for 2 weeks to get a feel of what British television, morning television was like. And he was just amazing to sit next to. And that was in my very early formative days. He was terrific. And we maintained a friendship until it was only about 4 or 5 years ago when I did visit him again, did his last interview out of England before he died. But yeah, he was terrific. No, they're the people who you admire.
Well, I admire you.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Very nice.
I mean, not many people
Even though you think I've been a mean girl.
You were mean in the beginning, but you know what? I navigated that pretty well.
Of course. But it's not being mean. It's just my honesty.
Yeah.
Not being mean to you. It's my honesty. And it doesn't matter whether it be you or somebody else. I would say the same thing because I think from my point of view, and seeing you did ask.
That was my fault.
You did ask. And that's the problem with me. Sometimes people ask and they are likely to actually, most people see criticism. It's a funny thing. People go, please tell me what you think.
Constructive.
They don't want criticism. Right. Even though they say they want constructive criticism, deep down.
The ego and the id
does
not.
You will never get away with telling somebody something negative about themselves or what they've done. Doesn't matter how nicely you couch it. That's not what people want.
Then how were you raised? What were your parents like? Were your parents constructively critical or is that just something?
Oh no, they were fantastic. Had the best fabulous family life. But this is what we had to do. You want to do something, go and achieve it, go and get it. You go and do it. They weren't giving us handouts. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't get, fed. Yes, darling, you can go and do this. Oh, let me help you. No.
Let's talk about your feelings.
None of that. And thank goodness. And I do think, probably there are clearly a lot more books on how to raise children and do things, but I just have no issue about how I was raised. Yep, my generation and hopefully a generation after have come through the hard way, and I do feel as if, especially with a lot of young women, we're raising young women who are beautifully sensitive, but not as resilient as they should be for the rest of their life. And I'm not sure that's, favourable for the rest of their life. And I do think you have to look at each individual child that you've got and figure out the sort of personalities that child has and try and suss it out. But that said, I'm all for it. You want something, go get it.
Do you think that the type of mother you would have been would be the type of parent your parents were to you?
Well,
have you ever thought about that?
If you spoke to my my family and my friends about my dogs, I would have been an appalling mother.
Do you think so?
Oh, God, it would be, oh, darling, little baby. Oh, come on, Digger. Yes, you can do anything you want. Oh, my darling, yes, don't you mind. You walk through that kitchen with those muddy paws. Mummy will clean it up.
You do everything against what you just said.
I was shocking.
Right.
I was the absolute give my baby anything he wanted.
And children, I have dogs, and when I had children, I realized that, yeah, it's even harder to not give in.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure I would have been exactly the same. But I'm pretty glad that my parents raised us the way they did. And that's not to say they weren't loving. And trust me, you know, I had a mama bear. Mama bear was the force in the house. Dad was a bit of a pushover. But mama bear, but at the same time, we knew she was there. She had, talk about have your back. Yeah. She was there. But she... you know, she knew you had to survive and to achieve. You had to set yourself, you know, a high benchmark. And luckily, we had that. I've got no complaints. No, my friends, the way Digger's behaviour apparently didn't meet their expectations, but care factor.
How old is Digger?
Well, I lost him last year. He was 10. Yeah. Oh, God, I was gutted.
The heartbreak of
heartbreak,
a pet.
And I still miss him every single day. But, you know, that was my baby. And God forbid anybody had, you know.
I think he would have been a great mom.
Oh, yeah. There's so many good Instagram things with dogs and cats out there, and it's one particular one with this screaming outside, and the dog's going, the lady down the street just called me stupid. That's my mum sorting her out.
Yeah.
That'd be me.
Yeah. Do you ever feel, I know that you talked about once wanting to be a mother. Yeah. Is that something that you always had wanted, or?
Just didn't work out. End of story. And you can... you know, be sad about it all you want. But you just go, that was it. And again, as I said to you before, every decade of your life changes. Your perspective changes. Your attitude changes. Your emotional age changes. And along with your body. So you have to roll with that and appreciate it and get on with it.
Yeah.
And the longer you spend feeling sorry or sad about certain things, the harder you make it on yourself. Doesn't mean you don't feel it, but, you know, it's like everything. What is the issue? What is the problem? I'll sit here and bemoan the fact for a minute. Okay, that's made me feel any better. Okay, what's next?
And also I do believe that everything's a chapter of your life, like we were talking. And, you know, there's been a lot of grief. Well, yeah, grief that you've gone through recently. You've lost so many people that you love in such a short amount of time from each other. And sometimes I do like to live in the idea of, thank goodness I got to love those people for that amount of time.
Yeah.
And that was that chapter. And I think that's something that really helps people move on.
Yeah. But everybody, you know, life, you know, you don't experience the same things at 20, 30 and 40 that you do at 40, 50, 60 and on. It's just different. So you've got to wrap your head around it. And that's why, you know, as they say, it's much better to have children slightly younger at a certain age because you've got a lot more energy. Although 30 and 40-year-olds are vastly different to 30 and 40-year-olds going back 50 years. But they're the things, once you reach a certain age, they're the things that are going to happen. You will start to lose friends, family. Certain things will happen. Illnesses do happen. Stuff does happen the older you get. And again, that's just the logic and the way life works. So it is the natural attrition of life.
And there's no fear in it? Because I have fear. I fear it. Seeing my kids grow up, feeling like the days tick on faster, and I think about what's after this at 11 o'clock at night till 11:30. I'm like, have this feeling of dread every night.
What a wasted half hour.
What else? You know what? It's because I've been.
What else?
Because wait, because I've just listened to
11 and 11:30.
No, listen.
Hold on.
Listen.
No, you just said 11 and 11:30. I go, oh, what if?
Listen.
What a
wasted
half
you and I
hour.
just said we like true crime. So hear me out. We've both been watching bodies been completely like ripped to shreds. You're watching it on your TV. I'm watching it because I love true crime, or I'm reading it. I've read 15 true crime books within the last 5
I'm
weeks.
with you. I'm huge. I love true. It's the only novels I read.
Oh yes, I love them. I've got a few for you. Have you read The Patient?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
You're gonna read it within 2 days.
Tell
it is
me,
phenomenal.
Why is it that
we like it so
women, especially compared to men, 2/3 of women's preference is
true
crime novels.
I just love
crime shows. But it is actually a fact. Women,
Right.
I know it's a fact, 2/3 compared to men, women drive true crime authors and books and series. They are watched and read predominantly by women.
There could be a factor that, and I don't know if this is
that
true,
we
but
want to kill men. No,
a lot of women suffer from, after I had my kids, I felt very hard to actually concentrate. And true crime to me actually is the only time when I read that I can actually concentrate on something, because I feel like I want to know the ending. So I'm actually so laser focused on what's going on. I don't know if that has a factor, but I think women suffer a lot more from anxiety, just in life in general, and OCD, ADHD, that maybe true crime is just something that when they get into it, they're so connected to the material because you want to know who done it, you know?
Yeah.
And so you just keep
why
reading.
Is
maybe
it not men.
Maybe because men, I was going to say something that I was going to cut out. Maybe men are more likely to maybe commit a crime, so they don't want to, I don't know, think about that.
Yeah. There's got to be, some psychologist somewhere that has
I have a true crime podcast. We have a death investigator. He comes on and talks about what it's like to commit a crime, if there's such thing as a perfect crime, the forensics behind it.
Well, next time get a psychologist, psychiatrist on, so one of each, and ask them, what is it about the intellect of women compared to men that drive true crime in terms of novels? And because it is a fact.
Maybe it's because we might see ourselves in it, which sounds really sad, but a lot of crimes happen to women. So it's like you put yourself in one of the most awful situations, and it actually releases dopamine. So when you're thinking of yourself in a situation that's negative, you actually do release, just like happy chemicals, you do release them in moments where you feel unsafe. So there is a dopamine level. So maybe it's got something to do with we're getting a little high from it. Anyway, I watch the true crimes, and then at 11 o'clock, I'm thinking about death, Kerri-Anne. And then I'm thinking about, oh my God, my life, it's going too fast. What if I'm that person? You never think about that.
No, I've
ever.
Never, the fear factor, you use the word, do I fear it? No, I haven't. I'm probably not that deep.
Okay, maybe that's the problem.
Deep as a teaspoon.
You're like, wah. Maybe I just think too much.
I don't. I think a friend once said to me, oh my God, you don't project anything. And I've gone, sorry, what does that mean? She said, well, you don't project. I project because I've gone, oh, if that happens, that's going to, and then that'll happen. I've gone, oh, golly, gosh, no, I don't.
So you have no anxiety?
No, I couldn't possibly. I just go, okay, that's a good idea. Let's get on with that. If that doesn't work, I'll turn left. Oh, got better go around that log. Whereas she explained to me how her thought process was and how she projects, and apparently that's a thing, projecting. And I've gone, and I said, your mind must be, I find that's fearful.
Yeah.
No, I do not project.
So you don't suffer depression of the past or anxiety of the future. No. You're right here in the present.
Pretty much. Look, I do
How
think
does that
about
feel?
things. It's
Feels great.
It's felt pretty good for a few years.
Yeah.
So I'm still working with the same theory I worked with when I was 15.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just that's my norm. Whereas I, as my friend said, projecting. I'd never heard that expression before. Projecting shit. Oh, that happens. That happens. I've gone, oh, God, that'd scare me. I'll go, okay, if I do that, then I can get that. Oh, okay, I'll do that.
I'll do that now.
And yeah, so that's as far as I go. Oh, are you getting bored with us now?
No. I'm making sure Megan knows.
It's okay. We've got 2 more questions.
So I'm just being naughty. I'm sorry.
You were nicer to him. You're like, excuse me. Oh, Kerri-Anne, firstly, thank you for coming. I am so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful. I don't know. I just admire you so much. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I
really do appreciate it.
I like you.
So
I like
let's make sure
chat.
you know that I really, I do respect and admire you, and I do remember a conversation we had many years ago. So I think I was probably curious to see how you went since then. So it had to be at least 15 years ago.
Oh my
since
goodness.
then
It's
to
been,
there.
It's
and
been
you
a
don't
shit show.
actually remember. But anyway, that's fine. But it's nice to talk to somebody who is bright, who is intelligent, who has done a bit of this over here and a lot of that over there and another thing over there. And you've got a big life going on. And I think that's a joy to observe. And you're smart about doing it. And your career, just like everybody's career, it goes. You're doing a whole bunch of different things. I mean, that's why people go, oh, the success. I've gone, a career is not about one wave you've, ridden. It is about all the other wonderful things. And then you get another wave. And then you travel along a little bit and then you get another wave. But, you say, what are you proud of? I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I just have loved and enjoyed my career for way over 50 years. I've never been out of work. Some of it's been better than others. Some of it's been better paid, but that wasn't always the benchmark. It was about the joy that it gives me and what I wanted to do. All the people have told me, well, you've got to do this and this is how you're going to do it. And I've gone, I don't think so. Because I pretty much always did it the way I wanted to do.
Yes, you did.
So you just don't tell them you're not going to do it that way. You just do it. But you better back yourself and you better make sure it's right.
Yeah.
If you're going to buck the system, if you're going to do it your own
Love that
way,
word.
do it. But at the end of the day, just give it a crack.
I know.
For me, and only for me, I don't project that much. I make a bit of a plan, get on with it. Then you've got to massage the plan. Then you've got to get on with it a little bit more. But not everybody's the same. Everybody's got to do it the way they need and want to. And to be able to juggle life on the way through, as you clearly are doing, have done, and will continue to do, I'd only say enjoy the process.
Yeah, you're so
to
right.
the greatest degree
You're
you
so right.
possibly can.
There is no destination.
Don't let those little niggly things and that they're unimportant. And the older
you know what?
get,
I'll get rid of my therapist.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Please tell me you don't have a therapist.
Of course, I'm not in therapy right now, but yes, this is why I actually have my shit together. Kerri-Anne, I would not have my shit together.
See, you just got to go to the pub a lot more.
I know.
And have a
well, I have
drink
2
with
quick
someone.
questions before you leave. Number one,
Okay,
what is your...
I could take you to the pub. Could I play your therapist and I won't charge
I
you
like
$200
it, son,
an hour?
and I'll buy you some drinks. Okay, the number one, your biggest 2 questions. Your biggest shit show moment, and because second question is because I'm flying back and forth a lot. Sometimes I come to Australia and I don't know some of the slang. So your 2 favorite Aussie slang words. So that's what we're gonna do. So your biggest shit show moment. It can be heartfelt or it could be.
Well, apart from my decision and trying to get out of, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. The best worst one was being dropped off a trapeze. Oh,
yes, I saw that.
And being within 2 inches of breaking my neck and dying. Yeah. So I didn't fall. off a trapeze,
Mm-mm.
I was dropped by the ankles on my head. By my ankles, because the poor guy, his hands were slippery, not enough resin.
What?
I hit the deck, got knocked out, woke up and gone, oh, stood up again, none of which I remember, walked over. The circus performers, they surround you. I've gone, excuse me. And there's the conductor in the pit on the phone. And this is on a live show at the Lyric Theatre at the Star called Pippin. And I've gone, get off the phone. Bertha wants to finish a song. So I finished the song and then I went to hospital with a broken collarbone, which was about like that.
Were you in severe pain, or
Oh,
were you just?
sugar, yeah.
Was there so much?
I think there's
adrenaline?
probably a bit of adrenaline going on there.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I got up, finished the song, and virtually by the time I got up, within about 15 minutes, the ambulance was there, and morphine is a wonderful thing.
Oh, it is. I once got a migraine, got morphine. I was like, give me more. And it was
Mm.
awful. You have too much.
Yeah, well, no, when that third time I had it, I've gone, because you turn stupid with morphine.
It feels great, but
And
then it doesn't.
And then when you don't feel good, you go, why would people get addicted to something that turns you stupid? And
Right.
you do turn you, look at my hand.
That's just wonderful.
Oh,
You're like,
I have
it is
no, I
snowing
have fun.
inside.
Yes. Now, why would you be addicted to something that makes you turn stupid?
Because it takes
But I tell you,
away.
yeah,
That's
I
what all
don't-
the therapists are
But
there.
you turn stupid. But yeah, no, it's pretty good when you're in intense pain.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
had that a couple of times. So yeah, that was that was my worst/luckiest moment because I didn't die.
Okay. That is a shit show moment.
Mm.
Okay. 2 slang words that are your favorite that you use all the time. That when people not from Australia come here and they're like, what? What's that word?
I can't think
Gotta
of.
think of
I'm
one.
just.
Asha just said Bob's your uncle. I thought that was funny.
You know, shit happens.
Shit happens.
That's
Do you
about
say
it.
that a lot?
I think I probably do.
Yeah,
Try
shit
not
happens.
to publicly.
Shit happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is such an
It is.
Aussie
Shit
thing,
happens.
and it does, and that's what people forget, and people who project.
It's your new favorite word.
Don't say shit happens a lot because I just know it does. They go, it might happen. You see, that's what your therapist would tell you.
Yeah, I know. She
So
does.
tell me, what's the most important thing or the most stunning thing your therapist said to you that surprised you about you? Or shocked you or made you realize a wake-up moment for you that you didn't actually think you did or felt or was
She
capable
said
of?
that I've been contaminated. There's something called being contaminated, right? Sometimes it's not really your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, but it's, experiences, life, people throughout your life, your life who have told you who you are, and then you have believed it, so it has contaminated you. So my idea that I'm not good enough or not worthy. I was a really overweight kid. I don't know if you knew that. I was teased a lot at school, so that was the beginning of my contamination. And so for many years I thought I was that kid who was just a loser for so long, who had who couldn't be successful because I'd been told by many kids at school that that was me. So being contaminated is something that you have to work through, you have to work on, and you have to release and accept. I think my North Star is to fully love myself, and I don't really know what that feels like. It's not a boohoo, but I don't know what it's like to fully trust myself. I'm getting better. When I have children, they mirror everything wrong with me, so they're watching. And I have to, and something else she said, which is great, is recalibrate your expectations and control your reactivity if you want happiness. And those are the best two pieces of advice.
What's recalibrate mean?
Recalibrate means if I'm expecting this show to be the best show, go, well, I don't need it to be the best show. I need it to just...
Yes, you do.
I do, but
hell yeah,
recalibrate
Who
your
wants
expectations.
to suck at something?
So going to a dinner and going, it's gonna be amazing. You don't know if it's gonna be amazing. You don't have to have that expectation.
Of course you do. To have ambition,
But then you get let down.
No, that's only if you want to take that path. If you want to project, what you go, this is going to be so freaking fabulous.
It is. And regardless
I
if it
give
isn't to
my
you, then it is to you.
guts into this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's not quite what you went, okay, fine.
That's recalibrating
that
your
didn't-
expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I do it naturally.
See?
No, and
To have your
not
life.
completely naturally.
And control your reactivity.
It is something that I know I've had to do. Otherwise, I'd just keep beating myself up. And I wouldn't allow myself to listen to those dimwits telling me shit.
Right. It's subconscious.
I've had a lifetime of people telling me things. Do you think I'd listen?
No, not with those
I
fabulous shoes on.
don't think so. So it's time you stopped listening. And all those people who, what did she say?
Recalibrate?
Yeah, no, before that.
Oh, contamination.
Contaminated your life. You have to go, I'm sorry, like somebody was abusing me once about something, some bloke, and I've gone, when they stop, because when the bullies are at you, and they're at you there, you got to wait for the bullies, and they finally, run out of steam. When they stop and take that little bit of a breath, you go, I have stood toe-to-toe with Kerry Packer, with John Singleton, with bigger people than you, and you don't rate.
It's going to be my new
Get over yourself.
thing. We need to end
Get
on
over
that.
yourself. Don't believe in anybody else unless you respect them for what they've done or what they've achieved. Don't ever listen to anybody, man, woman, or child, to anybody who you do not respect what they've done, where they've come from, how they've reacted. Then you can listen and take that in. Let that contaminate you. But that's a positive contamination. Don't listen to turkeys.
And on that note, Kerri-Anne Kennerley, I love you. And thank you so much for coming on the shit show. We loved having you.
Continued success. Just keep doing a variety of things that you love.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much.